just the joy of doing swim run and being out in the nature. And I think that has kept that it doesn't get too serious. Really, it's more of everyone is doing the best they can, and everyone is doing a great achievement. If you finish a tour and you do it on a good time for you, that's a good time for you. It doesn't really matter where you end up in the roster.
Boys, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 116 of the show. We have a great show for everyone this week. Joining us in Studio G are brothers Lars and Jonas Ekman, A.K.A. Team Bröderna Bäver, the Beaver Brothers, for you tragically unhip who don't speak Swedish. We've known about this team since we first started watching Rasmus's ÖTILLÖ hype movies at like 2 a.m. and noticed these two tall, fast, and generously mustached fellas.
And generally.
Yeah, that were perennially on the podium at ÖTILLÖ. So it was super great to get to chat with them.
Yes. Oh. But first, our training update. So
the big one.
This is the big one. Our longest training update. We have an extended training update this week. So the boys, we split up. I went over to Catalina Island for Catalina Swimrun Adventure Challenge, and Chris was on the mainland, just right up the street in LA, running the LA Marathon as part of a charity team with fellow swim runner and former guest of the show, Kancho Boy, from the Kancho Boys episode, John. So we're each sharing our race reports to each other for the first time, which we normally sort of save for a Friday run or a long run.
Right, exactly. So I was getting some mini updates from you because I was seeing photos and stuff like that, and I was, the FOMO was definitely real. But Chipper, tell me, I mean, it looked like it was a ton of fun. It was crazy to see so many people in Low Tide Boys bibs and stuff. Awesome. So how did it go, man?
Yeah, it was a really great time on Catalina. It all kicked off on Friday. We had the beach cleanup, similar to kind of in the fashion that ÖTILLÖ did with the hashtag Clean the Ocean initiative, if you will. And we're happy to report there wasn't much trash left when we did a comb through, and we took a nice photo there. The weather was great, upper 60s, low 70s, so kind of perfect swimming weather. But on Saturday was the big day, and we kicked it off around 11. We all met at Wild Swim Run / Fika. Team Fika, Marcus and Amy and Trista's bungalow house in Catalina. Marcus put on a race briefing for everyone, and we took to the trails for I hung out for 4 hours with them, and we went all over Avalon, swimming under the pier, up towards the Wrigley house, down towards like this Edison thing, getting not the open water swims. And the first swim that you hit, you just remember I was brought right back to Catalina, where the waters are just so clear and all the fish, and just how half of it was swimming, half of it was like sightseeing underwater about all the cool things that were going on out by the casino. So it was great. All the way to the tip top, we saw a bison, and I had to head back home after 4 hours, or after 3.5 hours, head back to the family. But everybody else carried on for another 2 hours, and more trails, more swimming, finishing at the casino. Everyone was pretty blasted on Saturday, pretty pooped, but it was a great time. Then on Sunday, we took for a nice 2-hour swim run in the morning. We started at 9, did basically kind of the first third or the first half of what we had done the day before, a little bit chillier, and the wind had kicked up, so there was some rough water swims, which
that would have been race day.
It would have been race day, and it was. I was talking to Beak and Marcus and the Boston Red Sox and folks who were there, who did Catalina as well, and they were like, "Yeah, we kind of were getting some Parsons Landing vibes a little bit." So it was fun, and it was also good to kind of get the, we had been training for a while. We had good momentum off of our Austin race, and it was like, okay, I feel like a little bit more fit, like in shape. How's everything sorting out early, quote unquote, in the year for us?
It's the first time putting on the suit all year.
Yeah, it was the first time putting the suit on. I made sure to testing out the new precision hydration and fuel, the jumbo gel, the 90 that they have, carrying a bottle with me. So I was working on my hydration and everything there, but it was a great time. And then after the 2-hour run, people went to eat, and then they went on like a 14-mile trail run after. I didn't participate in that. I was hanging with the family. We needed a little bit of the cabana life. But yeah, I was very jealous of the longer full-on training camp experience that everyone had, but I was overjoyed with happiness.
It looked like a lot of fun.
Weekend. It was great.
When you would give me your sort of your check-ins over Marco Polo. Like I was definitely missing you, and I could tell you're having a good time. So I'm glad you got to go.
My tether didn't extend to anyone else. I will have you know.
We didn't talk about it, but you could have tethered with someone.
It would have been. I was also. It would have been awesome. Obviously, you were doing your thing, but I'm like, oh man, this has been so fun, and to kind of hit bits of the course again and feel like, okay, this is the Catalina Hills, and like, okay, I feel way better than I did a couple years ago. But on the mainland, how'd the LA Marathon shape up for you and John?
Yeah, so first of all, I guess I want to say thank you for everyone that like sent me well wishes and donated to Keen, because I was fundraising for them. That's Kids Enjoy Exercise Now. And the initial plan was for me to push a special sort of running wheelchair for the whole 26.2, but that sort of fell through. So instead I ran with the duo team, quote unquote duo team of Amanda and John from the Kancho Boys, and essentially, was kind of like their pacer / concierge for the whole thing. So it was an early start. We had to get there super early to get the wheelchair set up and everything. Like we were up way too early for you.
Even earlier than you're saying
it was early for me. It was early for me. Yeah.
That race is 7 a.m.
Starts at 7, but the wheelchair start was at 6:30. So it was actually kind of weird because, the race starts and there's basically like no one around for a while. And then by the time you hit like mile 20, you just get swallowed up by just like a sea of people. But yeah, I took some turns pushing the sled up the hills when John was dying. It was actually pretty hard to push that thing. It's like you're pushing a sled, you're feeling your hamstrings, you're feeling it in your in your calves, and it was an effort, especially on the hills. So towards the end, I definitely,
took a couple pulls.
John was being kind of stubborn about it, which I can appreciate because I'd probably be the same way. But yeah, there's a couple. I was like, dude, let's just get this done. I'm just gonna push this bad boy up the hill. While taking care of Amanda, who's just a disabled woman who has little use of her extremities, so it was like making sure she was drinking, feeding her, and just making sure she was having a positive experience because it was her first marathon too.
Nice.
So yeah, it was basically, it felt like it was like it took us 4 hours and 15 minutes, which were ahead of schedule.
That's respectable.
Yeah, we did the first half in like an hour 50, and I was like, we got to tone this down a little bit. But it kind of toned itself down. But yeah, it was basically like a 4 hour and 15 minute continuous good deed where I was just like pacing, just like when I would pace you at a 50 is like, well, my job is to just be here and be available for whatever people need.
You don't have I'm not trying to hit 3:30 or any time. You're there to be in that moment with these people.
Yeah, and it was challenging in the sense that, not to sound like anything, but it was definitely slower than like my zone 2 pace. So it was a lot of running, but it was kind of like up and down rather than moving forward. So that took its toll. I think I had like 50,000 steps or something wild. For
your goal.
Yeah, I definitely had
I
think I hit my goal for the week. But yeah, there were some funny things that happened. So at mile 19, it was actually really cool. There was tons of run clubs. I didn't know LA has like a million run clubs basically. So everything's like Killer and Killer Run Club, this and whatever, like LA Flyers and just a bunch of weird clubs. But at mile 19, there was this club. I think it was like the Mexican Runners of LA. I don't know. I'm totally screwing this up, but it was something. They had piñatas across, these giant piñatas sort of across the road.
Whoa.
And people are running up and hitting it. And I was like, John, watch mile 19, watch this. So I do like, I hit it and I land and instantly, like as soon as I hit down, I was like, that was a terrible decision. That was terrible. This was a great idea. It needed to be at like mile 4. Mile 4, I would have been like, hey, take a picture of this thing. But mile 19, I was like, why the hell would I do that? And people were screaming and everyone's like, so definitely got caught up. That was pretty funny. And then I kept trying to find ways. So like I was looking out for Coke
Okay.
And John at one point saw like a bag of chips, so I'm like beelining, or he would drop
run
something.
an errand or something.
I'd run an errand, come back. I'd run ahead, make sure to get water and hydration for him. Or it's like, oh, what do you need the next 8? Basically, like pacing. I would just like sprint up, grab a bunch of bananas or whatever. And yeah, so it was like we found Coke, mile 22. That was just some random.
That was the only place.
It was some random club that just they knew what was up. So, I run over there. I'm like basically running up onto the median where everyone's cheering, and I take a couple Cokes and stuff. And I was like, dude, you just saved my buddy's race. You have no idea what you just did. He's like, right on. We just run off. We also found some BioFreeze that some other club just had like the little spray. So like I basically like pulled John over and had the dude like sort of spray his calves and stuff.
Oh, so if you have tightness, it's like an icy hot spray?
Exactly. Yeah, it's sort of like a topical sort of anesthetic, and it just cools you off. It's like sprayable icy hot, I guess, or Tiger Balm or something.
Yeah. Nice.
But yeah, and then by that point there was tons of people out spectating, and obviously, you're running in a duo team, you're pushing someone in a wheelchair, you're getting all the love.
Yeah.
All the love. So it was actually pretty emotional kind of getting the finish line, because those last 2 miles, and, Amanda, she's never been a passenger in a marathon. It's still hard on her because it was, there's a lot of bouncing, a lot of stuff. And, she was working too. So she was happy for it to be done.
To be over.
But yeah, it was a great experience. First time actually, John and I were talking about it. Like I'd never ran. I've done all kinds of stupid shit with him, but I've never ran a marathon before with him. So it was cool to do it in this way. It was cool to sort of be of service, and it was also, from a fitness perspective, I think you were talking about it, how like, it was nice to kind of like after putting in some volume the last couple of months and just go out and express
how it's
it.
coming out, yeah.
That last hill where I was pretty spent. John was definitely spent. It was maybe like a quarter mile. I was like, give me this thing, and just turn it on and power it up this thing. So it was nice that I had that gear kind of there, and that just speaks to you just trying to be consistent with training and stuff. But that was the moment where I was like, oh yeah, I'm fit for this type of thing for sure, which was good. But yeah, again, so many people reached out on the Low Tide Boys feed or personally, just like saying congrats. And
you made the LA Marathon official Instagram post.
Well, that's the thing, man. We were getting photographed everywhere because, again, it's such a feel good thing to see. And everyone that was running by us was giving us like high fives and thumbs ups, unless they were like the elite, like the dudes with the super short shorts. You think they're really serious,
split. Yeah.
And it's just like they're not saying hi to anyone. I was like, come on, bro,
Nice.
Down a
and
bit.
you, but 4 hours on the pavement.
Yeah, I think.
Did that take a toll on? Did you feel that more than?
I felt it. I definitely felt it, just like your bones kind of thing, just from all the pounding. But I started coming around pretty quickly. I flew back 4 hours after the race, so that was kind of a bummer. But yeah, I would say by like Tuesday morning, I started coming around, jumped into Normatec boots and stuff like that. And I took a day off, which I haven't taken a day off from training in a while. So that was good. But yeah, man, it was really cool. And it was a great experience.
All right. Well, congrats to you and John. I saw you sent me a couple videos of John pushing that thing. I'm like, that boy's gonna be sore tomorrow.
Yeah,
like his shoulders, everything. Wow.
John. We mentioned this on an interview with him. He's one of the strongest people. So there was no way he wasn't gonna finish. So I'm glad I was able to take the load for a little bit for him. But yeah, he would. If I wasn't there, he would have been just fine.
He would have been totally fine.
That's fine.
Also, checks watch. By the way, Swimrun Lake James is only 4 weeks away. If you're listening to this now, I have a little bit of stats. There are 33 long course teams, 27 short course teams, and 49 solo athletes.
Those people should partner up.
Seriously, though, why don't you head on over to Swimrun Lake James Facebook page. They have a little bit there if you are a solo athlete or you want to join in. I don't know how many. I would imagine they're getting pretty close to sold out with those kind of numbers. So head on over and sign up for that if you haven't. And I will tell you, a lot of folks from the Catalina Swimrun adventure are doing Lake James. And if they're not, they are after that. They've got the bug and they're hooked up. So
I love it.
Yeah, it was great there. So now for this week's shout-outs and feats of endurance combo.
this week.
So we're shouting out everyone that came to Catalina this past weekend to make it such a memorable event. So many great photos and videos. I know there was like 7 GoPros out there, so there'll be more coming out. And we brought all the low tide boys bibs. It was really cool to see everyone run around there.
Good idea, dude.
And I was like, don't do anything too
idea.
stupid with these things on, because people would run by like low tide boys, and we're just like, it's Swimrun, just lowtideboys.com. Try to yell
With
at
the
us.
Z.
But the shout out includes several first timers we have. We had some great Sherpas, obviously lots of photographers, videographers. Everyone consumed ice cream. I confirmed that with my own eyes. We had amazing water stop aid station volunteers at Atwater, also with a surprise bottle of Coke coming through there, bike supporters, and obviously the generally amazing people that we have on a regular basis. So, in no particular order, here are the folks that I can remember. Sorry if I forgot your name. This is the chipper disclaimer up the front. But Marcus, Beak.
Well, before you go, don't forget we got this from Amy. Gave us this list. So,
so get mad at Amy.
yeah, if
Get
someone's
upset at
missing, it's Amy's fault.
Okay, Amy.
We're just throwing her under the bus.
Right on the bus. Marcus, Beak, Trista, Amy, Anna, Ben, Allison, the Maestro twins, Fatima, and her sister came out. Really cool to hang out with them and see them after chatting with them on email for a while. Roxanne, Lindsay, Elizabeth, the Boston Red Sox, which included Greg, Bronwyn, and their daughter Gwen, myself, my wife and tribe, Charlie and Sunny, Lisa, Tony, Laura, Abby, Carrie Ann, Mike, and Christine, who came through with the water and Coke at Atwater, and Sabrina. Whew.
Yeah,
It was a gang.
You know what got? I had no idea. I mean, I don't know a bunch of people that were going to be there, but I had no idea that Mike and Liza were going to be there. I love those two. Every swimrun we've done, they've done.
I see them all. What's up?
Yeah, they're great.
Like
they're great. So I'm bummed. I know they live in the area, so it's probably easy for them to get there. But I'm bummed I didn't get to hang out with them again. But
Yes,
next time,
which will be Swimrun Lake James, as it turns out.
Awesome.
So we also want to take an extra shout out to Christine for offering Coke at the water at Atwater Hotel there. It was a game changer. Definitely unexpected and appreciated for the vast majority of the crew that went off after I peeled off. Some might say sensibly.
Some might.
And some might, but others say I missed out on major FOMO. 2 hours there, so that was great. Christine, thank you for doing that. And Matt, Amy's husband, was Sherping around on his mountain bike all over Catalina Island. Big shout out to there. So if you're in the Low Tide Boy Strava Club, you probably saw so much feats of endurance happening.
Your feed was overflowing.
Your cup overfloweth with kudos, hopefully, as well. If you're not, head on over to the Strava Club, search Low Tide Boys, and get in there and have some fun. Whew. Now, I'm going to kick it over to Chris. He's coming in over at the Low Tide Boys news desk for another segment of This Week in Swimrun. Take it away, Chris.
All right, welcome to the LTB news desk. We're keeping it short this week because we have a packed show and we didn't have enough time to scour Instagram for event updates. Full disclosure. Swimrun Maryland has announced that this year's event will take place on Sunday, May 8th in Greenbrier State Park. This race has a short 9.5 mile total distance course and a long course of 18.8 mile total distance with team and solo options available for both. So get on that if you are in Eastern United States or want to go to Maryland. Over in France, the 2022 edition of the Anjou Swimrun is going down on May 7th. This is the 4th running of this local race. And if you've ever been to Anjou or this part of Western France, you should really put it on your list. I went there when I was in college through there on the way to Bordeaux.
Oh.
It was a super cool town. Anyway, that's it for this week. Again, super short. Feel free to reach out to us and let us know if there's anything you'd like for us to mention on the show.
Yes. Now for this week's updates. So the awesome folks over at Precision Fuel and Hydration have set up a discount code for all the listeners of the Low Tide Boys. Enter code LOWTIDE22, and that'll save you 15% off your first order. Additionally, if you're looking to flesh out your swimrun calendar, the good people over at Odyssey Swimrun have given us the code LOWTIDEBOYZ. That's boys with a Z. That's good for 15% off your registration to any and all of their 2022 events.
Yeah.
Don't miss them.
Don't miss them. There's only 4.
There's only 4. You got to get in there. You don't, just do it. Why not? Now, without further ado, let's jump in the conversation with the Beaver Brothers.
Yeah, so Lars and Jonas, they're brothers. They're excellent athletes, and they're elite swim runners. They've done a ton of racing together, and it was great to meet and chat up with them about their swimrun journey and sort of their team dynamics as siblings, which I thought was going to... It played out as I expected, but it was still nice to get confirmation of that. We talked about a lot of stuff in this interview and even managed to get some pro tips from them to add to our running list for ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun Championship. I think Chipper was even inspired to grow a righteous mustache for the race in their honor. I asked my wife. She gave me the big veto on that, so she's not going to let me grow a mustache. But this interview was a lot of fun and proved once again that swim runners are just some of the best folks out there.
Yes. Chris, I must ask you a question. Can we get on with the interview?
I think we should.
All right. Without further ado, here's Lars and Jonas.
Let's go tee on with it. No, that was bad.
Oh,
that was rough. Only Marcus is laughing at that. Okay, so with us today, we have team Bröderna Bäver. So for everyone listening, and I probably butchered that, so I'm sorry, but the Beaver Brothers, Lars and Jonas Ekman. Now, before we really get them on here, I have to say, like, I remember seeing ÖTILLÖ video like 3 a.m. Must have been the World Championship from, like, I don't know, 2016 or 2017 or something. And there's this guy, super tall dude with a big old mustache.
Iconic, legendary mustache.
I was like, one of these days, I want to meet this guy. And it turns out he has a brother who also had a mustache. But in this footage, I'm pretty sure it was Lars. So Lars and Jonas, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be.
Ah, thanks.
Yeah, we're glad to make it happen. And actually, you guys were our number 1 brothers that we talked to, and number 2 was the Jonas Brothers. So it's just really great to have you all here. Again, such a great history and pedigree in swimrun. We had to hear more. But first, let's kind of dive into it. Obviously, you two probably go way back. You know each other from a long time ago. So, what was it like growing up with two? Were you both active and getting out there as kids? Let's kind of hear the whole background, your athletic sort of pedigree, history, if you will.
Oof, should you start?
Yeah, I think we've always been like a sports family, active family. Can't sing, can't play instruments, but do sports. I don't know if it's like a thing.
You get one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, both our parents, they got us to do a lot of different sports when we were younger and quite fast. We both, went on to swimming, and, you know, the amount of training in swimming is quite a lot. So quite fast, that was like the main sport we were doing growing up. I guess from like early teen, or actually from like 8-9 years old, maybe. Until sort of different careers made us had to stop the swim training because it just takes so much time.
Yeah.
For me, that was going on to med school. I couldn't really just combine those two. Lars switched before that and went into a lot of other different sports.
Yeah, I mean, as Jonas said, we tried a lot of sports, and then by the early teens, so maybe 12 or 11 for me, maybe swimming became the main choice. Then I went on to military service, and after that I tried a very small sport called Naval Pentathlon, which is a military sport, and you do an obstacle race. You also do an obstacle swimming race with fins. You swim with your clothes on, and there's a life-saving part of that, and then there's a running event where you also do some shooting and some hand grenade throwing, and it's a small sport. Most people have not heard about it. But it was a fun sport.
Do you think there's a podcast about it?
I know.
I don't actually.
Because we're all about cornering markets on podcasts.
We got to find the smallest thing. And how does that work on Saturday? You're like, Mom, we're gonna go out. We're gonna do grenade throwing practice. We got to practice a grenade chucking this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was after moving.
Yeah,
moving from home. Yeah. And the military got me into swimrun.
Yeah.
So while I was still working in the military, the ÖTILLÖ was quite small, and the military, the Swedish Navy, helped out with security a bit and got free spots. So me and this other guy, we never met before, but we wanted to try it, and we did it the first time in 2011.
2011.
And I was. This Naval Pentathlon is the events are from 1 minute up to 10 minutes. So I was not prepared for ÖTILLÖ. It was quite different going from 10 minutes to
10 hours.
10 hours. But it took me another 3 years then, or 2 years before me and Jonas did it.
5 years actually.
Oh yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years to do the ÖTILLÖ, but for 3 years until we did our first swim run.
It's like a
2 years.
local
I
one.
think 2 years. Like 2011, you did ÖTILLÖ. 2012, for my birthday, I got that we were doing Amfibiemannen. 2013. So I had a year to prepare myself for the first race that we did.
So I have a couple of questions. So Lars, did you have a mustache for that first ÖTILLÖ?
Oh, in the military, you can't.
Probably can't, huh?
No, I don't think I did. I think that
later?
came later.
Okay, and second question is, so you do ÖTILLÖ. It's obviously this. I mean, it must have been super cool back in. It's going to be great. It's always great, right? But it must have been really cool back in the early days. How did that conversation go to Jonas? Be like, hey man, this is really crazy thing. I think we should. Do you want to check it out? Like, tell me a little bit of how all that came about.
Well, I think as Jonas said, I liked it, but ÖTILLÖ was too long for me back then, definitely, and I knew that Jonas hadn't been doing that much long distance. But so I just gave a start in Amfibiemannen to him on his birthday and said, "Hey, we're doing this." I knew he couldn't really say no to that. So, but we did it. I think we set a really a pace we knew we could keep. We were quite cautious the first race. It still went fairly well because it seemed like we had a natural talent for running and with a swimming background. So we did fairly well our first race. Yeah. But we really took it quite easy in the beginning.
Well, I think it's safe to say you guys have done fairly well in every race.
Yeah, you seem to have figured it out over the years.
It's a lot of podiums.
Yeah, and I think after that we kind of figured out that we could push it a bit. So we started pushing it, and for a while we really pushed it from the beginning. And then we did ÖTILLÖ, and we realized you can't just push it from the beginning either. And we started to figure out a lot of stuff. Different tactics on short, long races, where our strengths were compared to others. And I think we both enjoyed the first race together. Yeah. Both doing it together, but also, I mean, the experience of racing in the archipelago, swimming and running, and doing it together as a thing was really fun because we haven't been. I mean, we swam together, but it was always I was 2 years older, so I was on another team, and then when you got really good, I kind of had already quit. So
I was going to ask how are the race dynamics? Does it kind of go back to like? You know, I can imagine if I did a race with my brother, it would be like, oh, I'm the older brother, so I'm just going to take the lead on this and really charge around just like how we were kids. Did you two kind of fall back into those, I don't want to call them old habits, but is that sort of how it kind of came out, or is it a little bit different?
Well, it's kind of similar. I mean, it's always been. I guess we're sort of typical, the older brother and the younger brother. So Lars has always been a bit more about the planning and preparing and stuff like that. So especially at the start, when the sport was quite young, all the equipment, you didn't have the big pull buoys. You had like regular pull buoys, and all these different things that you could think, like where do you put the pull buoy. In the beginning we both had it like round our thigh, and actually you did a couple of races almost without the pull buoy, with like a really small one. And Lars was always the one pushing that, like, okay, what do we need to think about with the equipment? And I had a lot of good ideas, but I needed to be pushed.
They needed approval.
Yeah, you got to wait till Thanksgiving to bring them up.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Now, we're racing ÖTILLÖ for the first time this year. We're very excited. So at some point, we're going to ask you for some pro tips. But I'm curious, as you guys are racing ÖTILLÖ, and you're Swedish, this is essentially becoming this sport that's now been exported. I mean, Lars, when you did it in 2011, it was really only in Sweden. It wasn't until years later where they did Engadin and stuff. How have you seen, just in the years that you've been doing it, like sort of the race change? I mean, obviously with the gear, it's gotten way faster. You guys got way faster. But is there anything sort of that's less obvious than just sort of the speed and how the event has changed over the years?
Well, from my first, I would say, Jonas talked a bit about it. I mean, the gear is obviously, the first time I did it in the normal wetsuit, just cut it above the knees the day before.
And everybody had camelbacks.
Yeah, and we did it in camelbacks. So I was dragging a lot of, we prepared like it was a long day multisport race kind of. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's one thing. But also, I think when I did it in 2011, there was clearly like the good swim teams swam like faster than everyone else, and then the run teams came, and then there were some guys who was good in the terrain. And now, I mean, last year obviously it was kind of different. It was spread out earlier, but we have been seeing a lot more like the guys in front, and also the mixed are like more together.
So like racing in a pack. Yeah,
exactly. Racing in a pack. You can you draft off each other on the swimming, and then you stick together on the runs as well. My first ÖTILLÖ was nothing like that. People just went their own pace, and the differences were so big from what I thought. And I guess there were fewer of us as well, so there wasn't really a pack. That's what I think that's a big difference, apart from the gear. And as you said, I mean, the speed, it's so much faster now from 2011.
Is that a result of swim runners becoming kind of like how you said, no one's real, or there's less people that are just more pure swim specialty and everyone's becoming a little bit more well-rounded of an athlete? Or is it actually kind of more of the tactic situation where the team's really off the front, or like,
right,
we don't have to do so much work because we can, similar to kind of like cycling tactics that we see.
Yeah, and I guess
also
addition to that, like training for swim run, like you're training to be able to do these two things quickly. Yeah.
I think also like the gears improved, but also like Lars said, they were like everybody wore camelbacks, and I think like the first year they did ÖTILLÖ, the winners swam on like these
Nokia inflatables
mattresses.
Yeah. I mean, so it's been there's so you bring very little on ÖTILLÖ nowadays compared to just a couple of years ago, and that makes it like I think you get more of you get more from drafting on the swims, and yes, that and the improval of the general improval of the elite teams just make it a lot more of a tactical game.
Right.
But I also think you're on to something there, that once people started actually training for swimrun, you do need to work on what's your weakness. And when me and Jonas did our first race, he swam longer on an elite level than I did, and I had been doing running for a longer time. So when we did our first race, I couldn't draft on Jonas' feats. We needed a line, and then I pulled you quite a lot on the runs. And after we realized that we were going to race together, I mean, I needed to put more work into swimming, and Jonas did on running. And I think that teams that realize, okay, we want to be in the front, and we're not that good at swimming, we need to step that up. And then you become a pack, because you can't just be a really good swim team. if you really want to go for it. So I think that's part of it as well, that people actually train for swimrun.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely our story. We did Catalina. I mean, we done a race in 2018, and then we did Catalina right before COVID in 2020. And like right after the race, I was like, okay, I need to work on my swimming. I'm obviously super stoked on it. Got to work on my swimming, all this stuff, and just kind of committed right then and there to start working on my weaknesses to like make it easier on Chipper, who was pretty much leading all the swims at that point.
Not well, just leading them.
Yeah, like someone had to.
Someone's got to do it.
Now, like Chipper alluded to it, like racing with your brother, there could be some, competitiveness with each other. How is your communication during a race? Is it Lars, you're the older brother, you're just like, hey, just shut up and go type of thing? Or what, how do you guys communicate during a long race, especially something like ÖTILLÖ?
No, I mean, in the beginning, I might have had the lead, as Jonas said, and like a bit trying to pace us. And not going too fast, but also, like being in the lead, just like taking control of the race a bit. But I think after that, we've been trying to work a lot on talking a lot, like how we're feeling, and so we don't push ourselves too much, and we help each other out. And also, we do have a race plan, obviously, for like what are our strengths, and if the race doesn't develop, or if it does develop, like so I think we try to talk a lot, and we try to talk about what did we set up for a plan from the beginning, and also a bit like how we're feeling, and because it is a long race, and you'll have your ups and downs, and it's good to know when your partner is having a down, so you can help him, and if he just needs energy or what it can be. I do feel maybe that if we get into, and that happened maybe in the earlier races, we had some miscommunications, and I do think that we fall into I might be the older brother, and I might get a bit mad. Jonas is better at not getting mad, I think, but usually we don't. So usually it's just a benefit racing with your brother. But it does happen.
I think it's like Lars says, it's I mean, of course we've known each other for quite some time, so we know each other really well, but still you get these situations with like miscommunication or so it's that's sort of the reason that you learned over the years that you have to talk, you have to say out loud what you're thinking, so you don't assume stuff like that. And that's I mean that's true for any team, you're racing with your friend or your brother or a partner or anything like that. And it also, like, I think it's I mean, we're racing as brothers, but it's also been like a really good activity, pulling us together as brothers in our grown-up life.
I'm sure your parents love it. Oh, our sons are hanging out together doing these crazy things.
Yeah. Our mom are not very fond of ÖTILLÖ. She thinks it's too long.
She's like, I'm going to talk to Michael and Mats and see what we do. I can't have the boys being out there for so long.
I love it. Now I have I'm really curious. You guys obviously have seen the sport of swim run really explode, especially in the last few years. What is it that keeps you guys doing it? Like, I'm assuming you're both super stoked on the sport. I mean, Lars, you raced it this year again, and had a great result. Like, can you just tell us like what do you love about swim run? I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but
I think it's like from the start, and it still keeps being. It's like easy to access. It's so accessible, and it's like you don't need that much gear, and you take your gear, you start, and then you just keep going. You don't have transition zones where you leave stuff and pick stuff up. You go from point A to point B, and you bring everything with you, and you try to do as fast as you can. It's very, you go out into the nature and you just do your race, and it's of course with like a big race, and if you're gonna have a serious competition, there's gonna be a lot of safety boats and stuff around, but it's really just you just go out into the nature and race. And also with training, it's really like running and swimming. it's very accessible. Yeah, that's I think that's one of the main reasons that we sort of got hooked on it. And I mean, the fact that we sort of figured out in the start that we were quite good at it.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, getting podiums is a huge motivator.
yeah, of course it does. And then, I mean, also the beautiful environment that I mean, there are some city swim runs, but most are out in the archipelago, where it's just, sometimes you have to think about it, obviously, when you're racing and you're pushing yourself hard, that this is really beautiful as well. But it is. And as we both already a bit talked about, I mean, the fact that you're doing it in a team, sometimes, I mean, everyone in a team feels that it feels bad to be the one that has a bad day, or why doesn't your partner have a better day? But like 99% of the time, it's just so great to be in a team, and it pushes me a lot. I don't think I would. I mean, putting all this time and energy, we have families, we have work, and doing like triathlon is not that interesting to me. It's the whole team thing is, means a lot.
Yeah, you. Since we both done swimming, and Lars with the Naval Pentathlon, it's like, I mean, it's always good to win or get a podium, but to share it with someone is quite a special feeling.
Yeah, and this is something, I mean, Chipper and I have definitely experienced this, where what you're capable of as a team, it's more than you are as two individuals. Mm-hmm. So like you can tap into something, and obviously, you care about your brother, you care about your partner, and that sort of gives you a little bit extra to push through.
Yeah, it makes the well deeper that you could draw from.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's stuff to draw from, though.
Yeah.
You're not bonking your brain.
You're drawing gels from the bottom of the well.
More sugar.
Go for it.
Oh, I was going to say, so looking at all the ÖTILLÖs that you two have done together from 17, 18, 19, once you sort of crack the magic sub 8 hour mark, super impressive, by the way. Obviously, we only can dream of such a, maybe for the first half we'll try to get sub 8.
We're trying to crack the finishing mark.
Yeah. We're trying to get there. Really close. I mean, second, third place, always sniffing around the front of the pack there. Is that, obviously we would have to assume that your goal is to win ÖTILLÖ. And so let's talk us through a little bit about how each of those kind of years went through. So close, but what was it that kind of was it just right there? How did you feel that? Were you happy with all the results that you had? I don't know. I didn't word that very well. Sorry.
Just trying to ask if you're mad that you didn't win.
I think like the first ÖTILLÖ we came in 5th, and I think we felt we did a couple of like mistakes, and I mean I always felt that we've been close, but we've never been, we never finished, and you felt when you cross the finish line, you just feel devastated. You always cross the finish line, and it feels like, this went great, but I mean, of course we do it because we wanted that win. Yeah. And I think, that is the reason, that is a motivator that has kept us going, to keep training and keep coming back to try to get that win. But at least I feel that most years it's been, I think the year that was closest was like 2 minutes behind Frederick and Alex.
2018.
Yeah. But even then it felt like we did a great race, and it was like, they were better than us. There wasn't any small mistakes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And of course you feel like, I want to win, but it was not the feeling that we should have won. Mm-hmm. But still, the day after you're like, okay, so what do we need to do?
Yeah, and actually, in the All the Wave film, there's a quote, I can't remember if it's Jonas or Lars, where it was like, you guys crossed the finish line and you're like, oh, did George and Pontus win? Like, did they actually manage to do it? And to me, that was like, oh, like I loved sort of the camaraderie, like where you're obviously competing with these people. I mean, Lars, this year or last year, you partnered with who was one of your main competitors, and with Frederic. So it seems like you're competing, but there's still a lot of camaraderie and a lot of sort of friendships among the front. Is that how it feels on the inside? I'm talking from the outside, but do you guys feel that way?
Yeah, I think there's a good, there's really good vibe that you can be really competitive when you're competing. You still practice good sportsmanship, and I definitely think everyone does that. But you can be really competitive. Everyone wants to win, but as soon as you cross the finish line, I do think it is that then you're, you've been through the same 8, 9, 10, 11 hours, 12 hours race, and you can share that. And then, obviously everyone wants to do as well as possible, but still, you can still, make a lot of good friends, even with the guys that you're really competing with. So I think we're good so far in swimrun to keep that competitiveness on the course. A bit before, obviously, because everyone is a bit tense before the World Championships. But afterwards, everyone's just friends that loves doing the same thing. I think that works well.
And that's such of what we noticed, what's happening in the United States swim run scene as well, is that, everyone's sort of, whoever wants to be competitive during the race, that's fine, and it's happening. But the second you cross that finish line, it's like, oh, you're cheersing beers with them and hanging out and chatting and sharing war stories and things like that. What do you think kind of keeps that community? What's the main reason for that sort of camaraderie within the swimrun community?
I think a main reason is that it sort of, I guess when it started almost like a I don't know, like a hobby for a lot of people. Like a lot of people, like Lars and I, we had somewhat professional careers in other sports, and then when you put that aside, maybe someone did triathlon, and then when they put that aside, they found swimrun, and it's like, you try swimrun, and some people are really good at it. It's a new sport, and it's I don't know, you haven't been training that sport, so like that's your main sport, and it's your serious focus. So it's more like an experience, more like a hobby, and I think that as it has been growing to a more serious sport, Mats and Mikael has managed to keep that spirit alive, because every time when they're introducing the races, and every time you're watching the movies about the races or after the races, it's a lot of, of course you see the winners, and we're proud of the winners, but it's a lot of the focus is the experience, and just the joy of doing swimrun and being out in the nature. And I think that has kept that I don't know, it doesn't get too serious, really. It's more of a, everyone is doing the best they can, and everyone is doing a great achievement. If you finish a tour and you do it on a good time for you, that's a good time for you. It doesn't really matter where you end up in the roster.
That's exactly what we've noticed as well. It's less like, oh, what was your bike split, or what was your swim split, or whatever on this or that. It's like, high five, like, great job. That was a ball buster of a course.
Like, we all did it. We did it. We survived.
Did it. Everyone did it. Great job.
Let's go to the buffet and drink beer.
Totally. Where's the burritos?
That's what I want to know. So, the theme for us this year is that this show is really self-serving, because we were racing ÖTILLÖ, and we're very excited about that. We think we're like a year ahead of schedule, where we should be from sort of like an experience perspective. But be that as it may, you got to take your
We're
windows.
never going to feel ready, I don't think.
Yeah, it's like you have to take your shot when you get it. We've been collecting a lot of pro tips from people. Is there any advice that you would give us going into a race like that, whether in training or race execution?
Well, I think the first tip you're already doing, like go
Ask
do
people?
it. Go do it before you feel you're ready, because
Okay.
if you learn so much about yourself and how you want to do that race by doing that race, because it's so long. So it's like a great preparation for when you're actually feeling ready to actually have done the race.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's obviously a lot of tips you can give. It's hard. I mean, maybe just. I mean, we're talking about going out and trying to enjoy it, but realizing it's a long race, and we, as a team, I guess, been trying to really cut down on those things that steal time, like the transitions. There's a lot of transitions. I did swim with fins my first ÖTILLÖ, and that was because we were not as equal in the swimming. And those transitions work really well the first 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, but putting on those fins like the last hours, even if you're good at it, they start to you start to mess up. So that's I mean, that would be a tip, like minimize all like small things you need to prepare. And we actually started not wearing goggles. I know everyone doesn't want to do that, but that's just getting rid of another small thing that you need to keep track of where your goggles are, and you put them on and off. And so now we minimize that as well. And so
also
that would be a tip, just to clean it, keep it as clean as possible.
And also, like, since it's such a long race, and we've been talking about the drafting in the swims. I mean, if you feel strong in the swim in the beginning, it might be just anyway. It might be a good idea if you find like good feet, just to stay on those feet and feel like you're almost bathing. But if it's in the beginning, like the first third of the race, it will be a good save up for later. You don't have to be too keen in the first third of the race to like overtake a lot of teams in the swims.
Yeah,
that.
because like the first third of the race has half of the swimming, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good advice for sure.
And the simplicity part that you talked about, Lars, has sort of totally transitioned and made its way to all the equipment as well. It seems like everyone off the front of the pack has like, they wake up and they grab like 2 gels and a water bottle and they're like, okay, we're going to go race for 8 hours. It seems like that's what they're going with almost now.
I would bring some more gels.
Actually, that's a good question. Like, what is your what's your setup at the start of the race? Like, what do you have on board, like on Sandhamn?
Well, we've been doing it a bit differently throughout the years, actually, and we have a bit of a different setup, me and Jonas. First, it was just gels. Now, the last time I did it with 2 soft bottles, 500 milliliters each. Sport drinks, pretty hard mix, and then another. I think 12 gels or 14. And I sometimes end up with 1 or 2 left, but that's always good to have. Mostly because at the end it's hard to get them all down, but I think I would need energy if I could get them all down.
Yeah.
But a lot of energy, and then but I think you've been doing more with the soft bottles and actually having gels in the soft bottle.
Yeah, I poured gels into the soft bottle, and that's sort of also like a good tip. But generally, if you're doing ÖTILLÖ, you've been doing a couple of races, like how you tolerate the gels. I've never had problems with getting down a lot of gels, and so we've been in the early years, I don't know, sort of wanted to have that Snickers or have that Twix or whatever. When you eat it right out of the prig swim, I don't know, it just turns into, I don't know, you can't swallow it down. It just turns into in your mouth.
Don't tell me that. You're gonna wreck it. I'm looking forward to the Twix.
But so we've always been, just streamlining it, and it's been more just sports drink and gels. And yeah, I would say maybe like the small gels, maybe like definitely above 25 if you count the sports drinks as a couple of gels for the entire race.
Oh.
And then at aid stations, you would just supplement with water, sports drink, and whatever they have there as well, like real
Banana or
food.
something.
Yeah, but mostly just the sports drink. Actually, pick up an extra gel if they do have one, but otherwise the sports drink.
And the water in the Stockholm archipelago is actually physiological in its salt level, so you can drink that. It will not dehydrate you, and then the sickness will come after the race.
Yeah.
Oh, you worry about that later.
I think I'll be drinking enough water in the pig swim.
Yeah.
So
like you're getting waterboarded or something.
I think another good, now as we start talking about the tips, one thing that I've noticed me and Jonas have been quite good at, what we think good at doing, is that we've been working with the wetsuit. So, I mean, the wetsuits are really light. They're not as warm as they used to be, but still you would not want to do a run race in a wetsuit if you could choose not to. So we've been thinking that like all the runs above 5K, we need to put the top down on the wetsuit. It might feel a bit like a hassle, but if it's not really cold or you feel really cold, we think it's worth it on the runs, because otherwise you get too warm. So that would be a tip that, I mean, so for ÖTILLÖ, that's Rundmare and Nämndö would be the tip to also cab down.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, because who was it? I think Adriel, when we chatted with him a couple months ago, he was saying that like he likes the wetsuits without sleeves, not because it sort of impinges him in swimming, but it's from the running that he gets sort of fatigued from all the running with the shoulder stuff on. So I guess cabbing down would definitely help with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys are taller. I feel like you're over 6 foot. What's the situation? Not counting your hair, Jonas.
I think I'm 6'6", but I'm not sure about the inches though. But I think I'm something like that.
And since I'm not sure about the feet, I think I'm 6 foot.
Okay.
So 184 centimeters.
Yeah. Okay, that's kind of I'm about there
close enough
as well. I don't have a centimeter thing over here.
Yeah, this is we
But
Americans.
Jonas is quite tall though.
Yeah.
He's So I'm not. No.
Yeah, I always tell Chris, I'm like, well, when you're so much taller, I get way hotter on the runs. Chris is only like 2 inches shorter than me or something, so I'm just making up some bullshit. But anyway.
That is too funny.
Hotter on the runs though. So.
I know. And that's a weird thing as well. Almost every year when we finish, Lars starts to shiver, and I'm just boiling. Even the year 2017 was when it was like raining and it was wind. Really windy.
The really bad year.
Yeah.
Depending.
When we came up on Utah for the final run. I have to take my wetsuit off because I'm like cooking. It's happened every year.
Wow.
And I don't really know why, but it's something.
Maybe it's from the 24 gels you're trying to.
Yeah, it's from the 24 gels. Yeah, probably.
Your body's combusting all the sugar.
Yeah.
Like we got to burn these things.
Awesome. Well, I think we've kept you long enough. It has been such a great time chatting with you two. Again,
yeah, we've been huge fans.
Love it. I'm gonna have a rock star mustache for ÖTILLÖ this year in your honor.
Yeah, he is. That's already a thing.
It's going to be great to see you there, and good luck. Yeah,
thank you.
It's going to be.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see you at the start line, and then about 4 hours after you guys are done, we'll see you at the buffet line.
Yeah,
we'll have that beer and burritos.
Perfect. I mean, I'll be there. I'll probably eat more burritos and gels. So
that's good.
Yeah. All right, but thanks again.
Appreciate you,
and really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for getting the sport out there.
Hey, we're trying.
Hey, we're just having fun. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Sign up for our newsletter at lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at the Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any suggestions for the show or questions for us, send us a DM or an email at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of all our swim run activities, podcast, and other stuff.
Yeah, other stuff.
Other
way
stuff.
Way to keep it PG. Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim,
Go for a run,
then another swim,
then another run,
and then another swim.
and then another run.
And then just keep going until you're done.
So you're done. Or maybe can't
And then
stop.
stop.